5 minutes and counting.
There's been another mass shooting in America. This time in a
At least 40 people are dead after devastating mudslides in eastern Mexico. The now downgraded tropical storm Earl battered hillside communities. Most of the victims were in Puebla state. Mexican television showed hillsides buried under mud, trees felled, and buildings creaking under collapsed walls and roofs. The governor of Puebla state, Rafael Morena Valle, toured the damaged areas on Sunday. He said canine units were searching for those still unaccounted for. Before striking Mexico, Earl battered Belize last week. Mexico's Pacific coast is bracing for another major storm expected to hit later on Monday.
And at least 29 people have been killed and many others are still missing after heavy rains drenched Pakistan's south and southwest regions over the past 3 days. The NGO Edhi Foundation indicated that 14 people were killed in Sindh's provincial capital Karachi. 8 of them were electrocuted, while 6 perished under collapsed roofs. 7 more lost their lives in other districts of the province. Meanwhile, officials revealed that at least 8 people were killed in Hanai district of Balochistan province. The country's Met Office says the heavy rainfall will continue over the next 24 hours.
Residents in and around the Macedonian capital Skopje woke up to a devastating sight. The full damage of the torrential rains evident in the daylight. The worst hit places were in the northern suburbs. There, people wondered if they would ever make it out alive.
The water invaded from the channels and started carrying all the cars. My car is there. I was just wondering how to save my life. I went to a nearby service station and grabbed the handles on the ceiling when the water began to rise.
We escaped through the window, climbed on the roof and spent 2 hours there. But we're all well now, which is the most important thing.
Skopje's mayor said that the damage was the worst that had been seen in the city in recent times. Most of the people who died had drowned in their own homes. Thunderstorms and strong winds continued throughout Saturday night, making search and rescue attempts all the more difficult. The government has been urging people to stay at home and to drink only bottled water. Contamination and disease are additional worries that people here are having to contend with, as well as frequent power outages. The worst of the storms may be over, but those affected are having to pick up the remains of their lives and their homes.
You've got to see this amazing video out of Omaha, Nebraska. This was from Thursday afternoon where there actually was a tornado, and actually this is over a body of water here, so that would technically be a waterspout, and look how high up it goes. Oh my goodness, what a unique looking tornado, or waterspout technically. I didn't even know there were that many bodies of water in Omaha, of course apart from the Missouri River, but that is, I don't think it's on the river if I'm not mistaken. But either way, I mean, look how unique that looks, okay? You've almost got just like this really, really compact area of spinning running in the middle, that darker area, and then around it you've got a condensation funnel along with a bunch of drops of water, and all of it is visible, and they all caught it on tape. You can see it doesn't look particularly strong, but wow.
According to reports on Friday, a moderate earthquake rocked the Palm Springs area and was felt across parts of Southern California. The Geological Survey says the magnitude 5.2 tumbler struck at 1:04 a.m. and was centered about 20 miles south of Rancho Mirage. Facebook and other social media sites carried posts from people in San Diego and Los Angeles, about 100 miles to the west, reporting that they felt it. According to seismologist Lucy Jones, the quake was along the San Jacinto Fault, historically the most active fault in Southern California.
Rare but deadly anthrax has come to this remote corner of Siberia. A 12-year-old nomad boy has died in an outbreak in Russia's northern Yamalo-Nenets region. 20 others are infected, and another 90 people are undergoing health checks. Emergency crews evacuated some 240 people, many of them children, from a camp for reindeer herders close to the site of the outbreak. Scientists think climate change may be to blame. They say warmer temperatures are melting Siberia's permafrost, exposing reindeer corpses infected with anthrax in previous outbreaks decades ago. The bacteria can hibernate for many years. The boy is reportedly the first anthrax fatality in Russia since a major outbreak 75 years ago of this treatable disease, also known as the Siberian plague.
I thought in my head about how, if you punished them or if you made them more manly or if you didn't allow this. I tried them all.
For 2 years, Kimberly Shapley fought for her son to stay her son.
I did a lot of damage to this child trying to force her into this box of being less feminine, less flamboyant.
But now,
I'm a mom of a little girl that I would like to see live.
She's fighting for her now 5-year-old transgender daughter, Kai, to be treated like a girl.
I am choosing now to take this stand for my kid in elementary school so that we're not still fighting this battle in junior high and high school and college.
Shapley going before the Pearland School Board tonight. Her daughter Kai is set to start kindergarten in a few weeks.
We're focusing on, practicing our reading and getting more proficient.
Despite the Justice Department's directive to all school districts that they cannot treat transgender students differently, the Pearland School District says no to allowing little Kai to use the girls' restroom. Today, school leaders met with Shapley and said Kai would be able to use the nurse's bathroom. But for Mom, this is not a compromise. She feels it will do her daughter more harm than good.
A 41% suicide rate for transgender children who are not supported by their family, from their community, from their peers. But when you take a transgender child and you put them in a setting where they are supported, the studies show that they have no higher risk of suicide than their peers.
We sometimes think that tolerance is about one side giving up their understanding or their right or their position to agree with another.
Rick Torreson praised the school board for standing by its decision. He says it's all about safety.
It's not just about Kai, it's about Sarah, who is born a female, believes she's a female, and her safety in a situation where a man walks into that bathroom and says, I identify as a woman. What do you do with Sarah? Who looks out for Sarah?
Happening right now outside the government building in Uptown, two dueling groups are protesting outside ahead of tonight's Charlotte-Mecklenburg School Board meeting. Now, Eyewitness News reporter Elsa Gillis is out there live for us tonight. And Elsa, this is coming following the controversy of the district's new anti-bullying policy.
Yeah, that's right, Erica. And the groups have just started to gather and speak. There's the NC Values Coalition over here protesting the policies. And if we swing the camera right over here, we have others showing love and support right over here for what CMS is doing. The guidelines include school staff calling children students and scholars as opposed to girls and boys, and allowing students to participate in extracurricular activities based on their gender identity. Also part of their policy, students can use the bathroom of the gender they identify with. Although last week, CMS put this part on hold as that issue works its way through the court system. Now, CMS has told Channel 9 the policies are part of its commitment to supporting transgender students and creating a safe environment for all. But one CMS mother speaking with the NC Values Coalition here tonight told us she's concerned about her children's privacy and losing the pronouns we're all used to.
I actually think that losing gender-specific pronouns actually makes all the students become more like a nebulous group. And so we don't have girls, we don't have boys. They would all be categorized in one group. So I actually think that is not as inclusive.
So we're expecting these rallies will continue inside tonight's board meeting, and I'll bring you the messages from both of these groups in a full report tonight at 10 and 11.
News this hour, Delta Airlines is reporting systems are down everywhere. It's expected to cause significant delays at airports across the country. 22 News reporter Tamara Sakarzik is live at Bradley International Airport in Connecticut with what we know this hour.
Kay and Rich, good morning to you. We can tell you that Delta flights are grounded across the world this morning due to a worldwide system outage. Now, we haven't spoken to Delta themselves, but we have been following them on social media this morning, and they're the ones who are responding to passengers who are at these airports waiting to find out whether they'll be able to actually take off or not. And they're basically letting them know that this is what's going on, that right now they're having problems with their system and that they're trying to fix it as we speak right now. If you take a look behind me here at Bradley International Airport in Windsor Locks, Connecticut, you can see the line here is a little bit longer than usual for most mornings. However, we did just speak to a spokesperson at Delta who's over here at the terminal at Bradley, and she told us as far as she knows the flights here aren't grounded. We've also been keeping an eye on the arrivals and departures for you, and as of right now it also says that everything's on time, but we're going by Delta's Twitter, and it says that airlines across the world are experiencing this problem at airports across the country and across the world. So as far as we know, this is a problem, a major problem at several airports. People have been tweeting out pictures. They've been showing the lines that they've been facing because of this. And Delta has been responding to them on social media. They actually sent out a message responding to one passenger here, and they said that they're really sorry for the inconvenience and that their systems are down everywhere. Hopefully it won't be much longer. They then tweeted out a few minutes later that all their flights are grounded. But as I just said, as of right now, we just spoke to them. They told us here everything seems to be operating as normal. We'll continue being here for you this morning, and we'll let you know if anything changes. And if these flights are impacted, we're also going to go talk to some passengers and see what they have to say, whether their flights are on time or not. And we'll bring you any updates on air and online at WWLP.com. We're live at Bradley International Airport in Windsor Locks, Connecticut this morning. Tamara Sakarzik,
Good evening, everyone.
News.
A local couple says they are the victims of anti-Muslim profiling, and they filed a complaint against Delta Airlines.
They were kicked off a Paris to Cincinnati flight last week after a crew member complained to the captain that she felt uncomfortable. Local 12's Joe Webb spoke to the family today and joins us from the newsroom with more on the complaint. Joe?
Well, the Alis say the incident in the Paris airport ruined a trip to London and Paris to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary. They are not the first Muslims kicked off planes because people just felt uncomfortable about their presence. And the complaint asks the Department of Transportation to make specific guidelines to protect the rights of everyone who flies. Faisal and Nazia Ali celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary July 21st with a trip to London and Paris. They say it was a great trip until July 26th when they boarded a Delta jet in Paris for the trip home. The two say they settled in for 45 minutes and then were interrupted by an American ground crew member who came on board and told them to get off.
He said, yes, please gather all your belongings. You're no longer going to be traveling on this flight. He said, to be honest, one of the crew members, I guess they reported to the captain that they didn't feel safe. The guys on the plane, and I said, why? And he said, you guys were on your phone.
They were taken off the plane and questioned by French authorities. They had to catch a flight home the next day, and before they boarded that flight, they talked to a Delta agent.
Do you know what we did wrong so that we don't do it again today? And he said you did nothing wrong. That's just the way the world is right now.
Their situation is one of several involving Muslims kicked off airlines based on the crew's discomfort in the last few months. CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, has filed a complaint with the Department of Transportation's Consumer Protection Division on the Alis' behalf. They are asking for DOT guidelines on when, for security reasons, to remove a passenger, not just how they look or what language they speak.
They were kicked off simply because the airline crew member did not like the way that they had looked, and they did precisely that.
And it starts to feel like, well, is it now where the Muslims have to move to the back of the bus? You know, because if you look Muslim, we're not comfortable having you on the plane.
Now, the Alis are American citizens. They are of Pakistani descent. Now, CARE says they feel the spike in issues with Muslims on planes is a direct result of the anti-Muslim rhetoric tossed about in this year's presidential election. The Alis say they complained directly to Delta Airlines after they returned home and were told they could expect a response in 30 days. Rob?
Joe, thanks very much. Delta did issue a statement this afternoon on the complaint. It says, quote, Delta condemns discrimination toward our customers in regard to age, race, nationality, religion, sexual orientation, or gender. As a global airline that brings hundreds of thousands of people together every day, Delta is deeply committed to treating all of our customers with respect. Delta continues its investigation into this matter and will issue a full refund of these customers' airfares.
Surrounded by flames, Madeire's capital Funchal in the path of a fierce blaze. Residents, desperate to keep the fire at bay, even used garden hosepipes and buckets of water. But there's only so much that they can do. Fires began in the hills surrounding Funchal on Monday night. The situation worsened dramatically the following day as strong winds fanned the flames, spreading the blaze to other parts of the city. One hospital even had to be evacuated as a precaution. So far, at least 1,000 people have been displaced by the inferno. Many have had to spend the night in military bases and even a football stadium as they waited for the fires to die down. Madeire's landscape is making it difficult for firefighters to tackle the blaze. This small Portuguese island, located off the northwest coast of Africa, has steep hills and thick woodland. August is usually the month when wildfires rage. Mainland Portugal has been battling 100 fires this summer, mostly in the northern part of the country. It's prompted the Prime Minister, António Costa, to say that he would seek international assistance if the fires don't subside by mid-August.
Now, we know Rio is famous for its parties, but now as fans from all over the world gather on to cheer their teams, demonstrators are intent on making their voices heard too, and ABC's Matt Gutman has more on the protests of Rio. Matt, they were hard to miss yesterday in the streets of Rio.
That's right, Amy. You got to see it yourself up close and personal. They certainly made themselves heard, banging pots and pans and chanting as they tried to make their way towards the Maracanã Stadium, of course, running into that human wall of riot police. Now, it's been a rough ride to Rio the past couple of years. There's been a lot of anger over Olympic spending and government corruption.
The hangover beginning before the party. Demonstrators tearing apart and burning the Brazilian flag, fighting with police in the streets, with at least 2 people detained. Riot police late Friday blasting smoke grenades into this crowd of protesters, then charging. The tear gas billowing in yellow clouds. Medical personnel quickly setting up a makeshift triage unit, tending to those overcome by the gas and the smoke. The protesters trying to make their way to the Maracanã Stadium barely an hour before the opening ceremony, but they were flanked by an army of security personnel. Soldiers patrolling the streets, armored cars straddling the medians, and motorcycle cops parading down avenues. This protest planned against Brazil's vast spending during these Olympics and its allegedly vast corruption.
These riot police outnumber protesters here by about 3 or 4 to 1. There's obviously an enormous impetus here by Olympic organizers to ensure that everything goes smoothly and peacefully.
But while some protested, most partied. They were wrapped in flags, American, Brazilian, and otherwise. The city of the Carnival swaying to the music broadcast on jumbo screens across the city.
This is pretty much as close as you can get to the ceremony without having a ticket. Of course, there's a party out here, and no party in Rio would be complete without a little bit of samba.
The celebration in this city of samba just getting started.
Now, of course, despite all of that noise, everybody pretty much stayed in their lanes. The protesters, police, and of course the partygoers. No one from either side was hurt, which means the party can continue. And how about that samba dancing? That was really impressive, actually. Amy?
At least 30 people are dead and dozens wounded after a bomb exploded at a hospital in Quetta on Monday. The blast targeted a group of about 50 mourners who'd gathered to pay their respects to a prominent lawyer who was shot and killed earlier in the day. Witnesses said the blast happened as the crowd entered the emergency department. The dead and wounded were mainly journalists and lawyers, witnesses said. Targeted killings have become more and more common in Quetta, the capital of a province that's seen rising violence linked to a separatist insurgency. The motives of both attacks are under investigation.
Minus 5 minutes and counting.
There's been another mass shooting in America. This time in a